Hey, my name's Elliot, and I live in a strange town called Little Creek. Now, don't bother looking it up or going on the hunt to find it, because you're not going to find it. It doesn't show up on any map or GPS. It, along with its residents such as myself, don't exist to the rest of the world. Now, there's a lot of weird shit about this town. If you weren't born here, you'd have no idea when, why, or how you ended up in this town, almost as if you appeared in thin air. Which you think would freak a person out, but not in this town. Because when you appear in Little Bow, you don't know anything but your name. Nobody seems to care in the slightest though. They simply just begin to live life as if nothing was out of the ordinary. You can't leave town. Well, that's not entirely true, because you can technically leave whenever you want. It's just that no matter where you go, no matter what direction, you'll just end up right back at Little Bow almost instantly, as if it were its own little planet, but it's not. We have connections to the outside world, like the internet for example, or world history. We know about all the latest Instagram trends and we read all about the First and Second World War in school. We just have no influence on what's to happen next, because well, we technically aren't real. Hell, I don't even know if this will be read by anyone who doesn't live in this fucking town. But there is some crazy ass shit that happens here that I just can't keep to myself. Despite what most of you probably think, the people who live here aren't crazy or psychotic or nothing. Well, I mean, for the most part. But every town has their crazy people. I mean, I'm assuming anyway. It's honestly pretty surprising that we don't have more lunatics here, considering the fact most of them just popped up out of nowhere. Or, I guess, into nowhere. Another thing about Little Bow is it's very old-fashioned, at least in terms of building design. Almost every house, store and shop looks like it came straight out of the Wild West. Log cabins make up the majority of living quarters here. Despite all that, we still have electricity and technology and all that. We just have no fucking clue where it came from. You see, the only modern building in the whole town is what we call the resource building. Twice a month, alarms around the building go off telling us new supplies has arrived. Nobody is able to enter the building until supply day, and I don't mean it's against the rules to go in, I mean you literally cannot get in until the sirens go off. Not a single door or window will budge, and I've tried all of them. Can't break in either. It's almost like the building's indestructible. On these supply days, it's anyone's guess as to what we will be receiving. One day we could get boxes full of tools and the items required to build a vehicle or some electrical device that someone always seems to have the exact skill set to do so. Another day we'll get fabrics or fruit and veggie seeds that, again, someone will know exactly what to do with. Sometimes we get nothing. But maybe a loaf of bread and a knife. In fact, the only natural resources our town has is metals, trees and animals like deer and other woodland creatures, which we somehow always seem to have a good supply of no matter how much we use. You can burn the forest down and the trees will just be back the next day. The town's about 7 miles in total, big enough for what people have a vague memory of calling the basic town needs, like grocery stores, a mechanic, there's 2 schools from K8. Then the high school, there's a tech store and even a movie theatre. Now, if you're wondering how I know what all these things are, like I said, people just appear here out of nowhere, all having a brief knowledge of what their past was. I mean, I don't have these memories, I've just heard about them. I was born in Little Bow, so for the past 17 years it's been all I have memories of, which I guess is better than never knowing who you were before you got here. The thing is, even if I don't know what life is outside this town, I sure as hell know it's not as batshit crazy as this place can be. The first time I realised this place was off was when I was about 9. The sun was going down and I was playing in the backyard pretending I was a cowboy taking down bandits. When I turned to the woods, I was looking right into the eyes of something. It wasn't too close, but close enough to make out its features. Long skinny legs and even longer arms with large patches of fur, big bone-like hands and feet with long claw-like nails. His face was animal-like, long floppy ears that were patchy and torn, with green cat-like eyes. Its smile, however, was almost human. A jacked-toothed smile stretching from ear to ear. It almost looked painful. It stood crouching on its legs as its arms hung in front of him, dragging on the ground. Even in the crouched stance, the creature still stood at least 6 feet tall. I stood there in shock as we looked at each other. It never blinked, never moved, and its crooked smile never untwisted. I was frozen solid as it gazed at me. I could see its skeleton-like chest rising and falling heavily as it stared. Suddenly, I snapped out of it and ran inside, quickly running to my room and looking out my window. Once again, we instantly locked eyes. Fear shot down my spine as the thing tilted its head and slowly raised an arm and waving to me, before crawling away into the woods. This probably won't be the last time you hear about what I've begun calling the Bunny Man. That creepy bastard's shown up more than once in my life, and he's definitely not the only freaky nightmare-inducing shit that's gone down in this town. I've got to go for now. The sirens just went off. I'll write more after I go see what we've got. That is, if I'm not writing this to myself. Just sit tight, cause as soon as I get back, I'll be coming to write about more strange tales from this town.